It is an exciting time for insurers in Asia. Structural demographic changes such as large-scale population growth, rising middle class, and a rapidly aging population are creating a substantial and growing need for long-term savings and protection cover. On this episode of AWANI Review, I speak to Mike Wells, Group CEO of Prudential. Wells underscores the opportunities across the region's diverse markets. He adds, to get a piece of Asia's booming insurance pie, they must work faster to leverage on technology.
You are tuning into AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng, and today I'm joined by the Group CEO of Prudential, Mike Wells. Thank you so much for taking some time off your busy schedule in KL to speak with us. Now, I'd like to start with your visit to Malaysia, of course, is in conjunction with a new product launch, specifically a health application called Pulse, and Malaysia has been chosen to be the first country to test it. Tell us why Malaysia and what is this product about?
Okay, thank you. So Pulse is intended to be it's an end-to-end health app. So it can be anything from fitness and lifestyle coach. It can look at symptoms and give you some feedback on if you're not feeling well, what it might be, and it can be an introduction to a telemed doctor or schedule a doctor's appointment. It can tell you if you're in an area that dengue fever is prevalent or mortality. And all of these things in this ecosystem that provide a consumer one spot where they can get all this information very easily, very accessible, very modern, learning environment, very secure. And so we're here rolling it out, and it's free. So all Malaysia, we work with the Ministry of Health to make sure it's inclusive, so all Malaysians can use it. And it has, it's comprehensive, and it's a very good example of a public-private partnership. I think it's sort of the information we get from the government on dengue fever, for example, we can feed into an artificial intelligence engine with 30 or more variables, weather, humidity, things to give a predictive analytics as well as historic, things like that. So we can get that information out very quickly for the government. And of course the government's focus on health here was a big part of our reason. You asked why Malaysia first. Malaysia for us is our oldest Asian business. It's 95 years old. They've done a great job. It's one of our largest, it actually is our largest health business in Asia. A couple million Malaysians have their health insurance with us, so we're a very big part of the health ecosystem here in general. And it's a very tech-savvy, as you're well aware, and the fact we're talking in this format is a very tech-savvy country. So the use of mobile is very high. They use mobile to search. A quarter of the apps downloaded now in Malaysia are health-related and fitness-related. So it's searches for all these things are all of it combined to say this was the right place to launch. And then we'll follow with 10 other countries.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the key big trends in Asia, specifically for the insurance sector. Healthcare, you mentioned, is a big one. Yeah. And how do you see the use of, for example, this app is an AI-powered health app. How do you see the use of this kind of analytical tools and predictive models, like you mentioned, to really help cater to customers' specific needs? So
think of this as a technology for the customer, not for us. So this data is separate from our life files and data. We won't use this to underwrite or anything on a customer. It's secured to what are the effectively European standards, and it's kept away from our own files. But it's in our best interest. It's in the Ministry of Health's best interest. It's in our clients and the population for them to live longer and be healthier. Okay, so for us to participate as an insurer in that is a win-win. And then if you think of, it's no different than when we partner with hospitals here in Malaysia, almost 100 now. The more efficient we can make that relationship with the consumer, the less paperwork you have to do, the fact it's all taken care of for you, that makes you like the hospital and us more, right? So we look for situations where everyone benefits from it, and this is clearly an example where we think there's a lot of wins for everybody involved.
And how will Pulse be localized for each different markets that you're going to be in?
So, a great question. So it's localized. So we work with teams of doctors here, panels of doctors, to say what are their concerns locally that are unique. So there's a series of illnesses here that they're concerned about that we made sure the technology, so dengue fever is a good example. There's you localize for language. So you can choose the language you operate the technology in with the click of a button. It switches everything. Your virtual twin even switches to if you want to do that. Slang matters. I was talking to a local colleague at lunch today, and he was saying when he moved to the UK, there was so many different words for stomach that people used, right? That he, even being a doctor, right? He knew smoking, all the slang. Well, we have to localize for slang because someone may, use a different expression. So all these things go to, and then of course the regional access to doctors, the telemed, the doctor referral, all that has to be local. So each time you roll that in each country, you have a different iteration of it, but it learns on the previous experience. So the next few markets that we do, they're here watching what we're doing in Malaysia, and they were here today at the rollout, and they'll learn from the Ministry of Health Department, and we'll build on each success.
So Prudential is looking increasingly digital, is that right?
It is.
In reaching out to its customers.
Yeah.
So that brings me to this interesting conversation that we've been hearing in the industry, that the role of the insurance agent then, because if you're communicating directly with the customers and using all these predictive models, analytics, so how do you see the role of agents? Will they be obsolete in the next 5 to 10 years?
No, I think it's how they work changes. So it's convergence. So most people, I was with our top agents and top regional, our management office heads, if you will, today to start the day, and we showed the rollout was for them first. They're a key part of our business model. We have over 600,000 agents in Asia, and what you find is they need tools that allow them to interact with their client the way their client wants to be interacted with. Okay, so if you're using digital payment, you don't want to have to write a check or pay in cash. If you're not looking necessarily for paper forms for one of our more popular technologies here is a needs assessment on your financial situation, right? Well, our clients expect that to be digital now, and they want a copy, and so you are empowering the agency model with very, very modern technology, and it's a material investment to do that. The consumers then pick an agent that they're comfortable with, right? And then they pick and then that person can customize and get them through there's a lot of different products and terms, and our industry's got some jargon and complexity to it, and the consumers look to the agents to navigate all of that. And as their needs change, once the trust is there, the agent changes the portfolio for them and the products and the guarantees. And so it's a very effective model. There's clearly convergence between tech and advice. And it demands more of the agents, no question.
We do see that agency forces are significantly higher in Asia, right? I mean, if you look in the US, the entire US, you have a few 100,000 agents. In China alone, I think they have close to 8 to 10 million. So how can you help us understand the different demographics, and how do you serve them differently? Because you're saying this convergence is happening, but there's still a big difference in terms of education and awareness and acceptance towards products.
Yeah, no, it varies country to country, so there's not a single answer even by region. So, I mean, the general trends, banks distribution space is even more complicated, because that really is, I mean, it's areas inside a country is different in a city than outside of a city, that sort of thing. So, as people get busier, they need someone's help more, because they just simply don't want to spend the time to do it. Sometimes regulation makes advice models difficult, but like in the US, for example, if you went to buy a mutual fund, there's 16,000 of them. Okay, so you're going to need a couple Saturdays to figure out which one is the right product for you, right? Or you go to someone you know and trust. You may have met them socially, you may have met them professionally as a referral, and they have made a career of understanding how financial planning works and what products are best, and they have views on what's the best fit for you, and they save you a tremendous amount of time. How they get paid changes by market, but the trends that you see in China, in New York, in KL, the people do business with people they trust. And so whatever the advice person's called, if it's financial planner, agent, broker, bank advisor, it's how they develop trust that's fairly consistent around the globe. They tend to have a network of people they know somewhat socially and professionally. Their reputation is tied to our performance. So if we do something wrong, that hurts them. If we do something well, it helps them build trust and referrals. So I don't think you're seeing any. I think you're seeing an increased value in advice as you're seeing more complexity.
Okay. Well, one of the big trends, of course, is healthcare is becoming more expensive. While we talk about AI automation, it does help reduce cost for insurers.
Yep.
It helps reduce fraud cases. But does it really help to lower prices, premium prices for consumers in the end?
It does. There's a number of things it does. If I can get you to a doctor sooner, or keep you from going to a hospital when you shouldn't, right? Those things improve the overall cost of medical care in the country, and so that goes to medical inflation. The better information a doctor has about your history and make decisions, and the more comprehensive the information they have, they're less likely to make a mistake, or they can treat you perfectly the first time. Right, where it may take 2 or 3 times if you didn't answer all their questions completely, or you maybe held back a little. Those things are real in their world. So all these tools improve the efficiency of medical service provision, and that's a key element socially of what we're doing. Malaysia has good infrastructure for medical care, right? But it is growing. It is an aging population, which increases demand for medical care in the future. It has increasing diabetes and similar illnesses, right? So when we're working with the Ministry of Health's department, Ministry of Health, they're looking at these as future trends that they want to manage now. So that's where you see something like Pulse coming in.
So we do expect lower premium prices with AI automation and technology.
I think you get control of the costs. I think it's and I think you get different experiences now. So different age consumers have different views of what a doctor visit should be.
Okay.
Certain fields, I think AI in medicine has more impact than others. More visual fields, I think computers are a better tool for a doctor. In others, a traditional model hasn't changed a whole lot because of AI.
I want to pick up your point on medical inflation, because if you look at the health protection gap in Asia, I think it has reached about $1.8 trillion.
Correct. Yep.
So how do you see the role of insurers to help bridge this gap?
Well, it's a cultural shift. Again, to generalize for a second, in Asia, people self-insure. So they maintain more in cash, and they pay more out of pocket. It varies by country, but roughly 40 cents of the dollar of medical expenses out of pocket here, and that's a multiple of what it is in some Western markets. That's where insurers need to do a better job. We need to get clients to pool that risk through us and reduce that. They don't have to hold as much cash then. They can invest more in the real economy. They can do other things with their money. But to do that, they have to be aware of the products. They have to be aware of how they work, and they've got to trust the companies to make sure that they're going to deliver when they need it. And that's also true of the wealth and savings side, retirement and saving for education, those sorts of things too. But the self-funding, which is effectively self-insuring model in Asia, is cultural historically, and it's changing rapidly. And again, by country it varies the pace, but we definitely see it.
I'd like to pick up a point you made in one of these interviews before. You said that one of the biggest challenges in the industry right now is too much de-risking. Because when you talk about protection, health protection, right? When it is too much de-risking, you're essentially possibly leaving people that need insurance and need financial help the most. So
our job is to take and manage risks, and that's for 178 years. That's what we've done. 95 of them here. Again, you have to correctly price risk. But you have to be willing to eliminate some of the risks for the consumer. Otherwise, the products don't have value. If they don't have value, that goes to your reputation, the length of the relationship with the client, all sorts of things don't work. And you can de-risk your products to a level where there's not enough value for the consumer for what they're paying you for the service, and that's not something we would do. But the other is you see new models, or what people think are new models, where there's mispriced risk the other way, and that's not sustainable. So that creates a different problem, and insurers occasionally do get in trouble, and financially and things. And again, that's where someone with our experience and our history, you need to be innovative, but you don't need to be careless.
All right, well, let's look at consumer behavior. You mentioned earlier that Asian consumers, they tend to save, and I think typically life and health policies are the most popular, especially in Asia. And has that changed? Do you see the trend changing?
Asset management is coming up in Asia as an asset class, again, by country. It's people want to own, they see it as investing in the real economy directly. Again, we have insurance products that are linked to the equity markets and things, so they can do both. But there's how people are accumulating wealth as their individual household income goes up. Is getting more diverse. It's first protecting what they have and the things they're most worried about, then it's saving more, usually cash, and then it's investing the excess. And so with Eastspring, our asset manager, we're part of that last piece as well. It's one of the largest asset managers here in Malaysia as well. This is a country where you see that. Some other countries that don't quite have Malaysia's economy yet, asset management comes last, and in-house consumers save or invest. But again, it's that behavior is very similar to what you saw in the West.
Okay. What are the markets that you are most excited about?
What market am I not excited about is probably a better way to go.
Let's talk about China. Well, China, you have the joint venture with CITIC, and you have such a huge population, aging population, and
all of the above.
Yeah, all of the above, right?
So we are in 14 markets in Asia, and they're by choice. So we exit markets we don't think we should be in, and so it's a discipline both ways. But specifically to China, so we have a joint venture with CITIC. We're in 20 provinces now, so about 80% of the economy is under that regulatory footprint, and that's one where the consumer wants everything digital. It's mobile payment through Alipay and WeChat. It's phone-based, facial recognition, security. It's it is. They do not want a piece of paper. And so we're fully capable of that with a couple million plus policies in China, because that's some of the technology that insurers need is not so much about innovation, it's about meeting consumer demand. Where do they want you to be? And if you don't do that, then you do leave room for disruptors and people that aren't the natural owners necessarily at risk. So our business there is completely mobile, 100%. 100% payment on Alipay and WeChat, 100% premium collection, payment of claims, everything, because that's what the consumers expect.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So it's a lot of fun. I was just there a week before last, and it's very dynamic, and the numbers are large. So to scale up there is big. As you said, there's almost 10 million insurance agents alone. That's a pretty good sized city in most countries.
Okay, you've worked in Asia for so long. You've managed China, you manage Asia, and then you manage also in the US. Now, tell us about these diverse markets. And when you talk about Asia, right? What should executives know when they are looking to transition into China, or they want to get a bigger market share in China?
Well, China is about patience, right? And China is local, so you can't. You can't assume the culture in Hangzhou is the same as Chengdu or Shanghai. I mean, there's cities, you can go to Wuxi, which most probably American execs haven't heard of, and it has 8 million people, and I think it has 200 of the Fortune 500 companies there, right? It takes time to learn China, and you have to approach it market by market. I would say the same thing is true with Asia. My kid friends that Asia is not a country. Right, and the individual cultural nuances. That's why you want local teams. It's why you want people that live here. It's you need to respect local cultures. You need to understand local governments, policies and their ambitions, and you adjust for every market. It isn't a one size fits all. No two countries in Asia have similar issues at the same point in their development. They have similar issues directionally, but they're all the elements of it are at different points in their life. So you have to address each market one at a time, and it takes local teams, and it takes time. And it's we have the advantage of having been here for almost 100 years, so we've had time, and we have a great portfolio of companies that we have across Asia, and the teams work together. So again, as I said earlier, the success here in Malaysia on Pulse, for example, will go immediately into the other markets, and each one will come back. So if we learn something in Singapore or Hong Kong or Indonesia, will immediately give it back to the Malaysian team, and they'll embed it in their version of Pulse. So that's the advantage of having a large footprint across Asia. There are different learnings at different times too, and you need an organization that can do that.
Okay. Just one question about yourself.
Okay.
You're asking me to wrap up. So I'd like to find out a bit about your personal life. I mean, you travel 2/3 of the time.
Yep.
How do you keep ahead of the curve? I mean, what do you do to stay on top of everything, like competition,
you have
education?
a great team. You have lots of time to read because you're traveling a lot. And there's we have a really good management team, really good folks. The advantage of being on the ground, the travel, is you get a chance to talk, you get unfiltered information, you got to talk to clients, you talk to our agents, you talk to our partners from technology to banks and things, and that helps you do your job better. And there's no question the travel is an invaluable part of gathering information. I mean, you can't sit in your office and read PowerPoint slides and reports, right? I think that's an inefficient way to run the business. So the travel looks heavy, and it is a number of days. But that's where our clients are, and that's where our regulators are, and that's where our employees are. So you need to be out there as CEO. That's part of the responsibility.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Mike.
My pleasure. Thank you for the interview.
And thank you for the team for accommodating me. They need to wrap up. Thank you so much.